Animal Interactions Part 1. An ecosystem is a basic functional unit, like forest, desert, grasslands, lakes, oceans, rivers, etc. Ecosystem is made up of two components, living and non-living. Non-living components are called as abiotic factors that includes air, soil, water, temperature, moisture, light, etc. Whereas living components, they are called as the biotic factors that includes all kinds of plants and animals. Now we are talking of interactions. Interactions are a vital part of survival. There can be two types of interactions. Intraspecific, that is between the individuals of the same species, or interspecific, between two or more species. There can be plant to plant interaction, animal to plant interaction, and animal to animal interaction. We are not concentrating on plant to plant interaction. So, interaction can be a stimulus generated by one partner to which other partner generates response. How do the interaction can occur? There are different means. Physical means, sound mean, chemical mean, and visual means. In physical means, something like touching the other partner, pushing or hitting can happen. In case of sound, it can be intraspecific where male calls for female or vice versa, or it can be interspecific like when a predator is seen, a langur or a monkey gives alarm call which alarms the other herbivores. And there can be chemical interaction where the partner secretes a chemical. For example, some grasshoppers or bugs, when they feel threatened or when they are poked by some birds or predator, they secrete obnoxious chemicals. Or a skunk in American region secretes foul smelling chemical. Or it can be a visual interaction as well. For example, if you are walking into the forest and you see something like an owl sitting on a branch, when you go close, you will see there is owl moth. So it's a coloration of an organism that tells us something. It can be warning as well. The result of interaction can be of three types: neutral, positive, or negative. What does it mean? Neutral means the partner doesn't get benefited. Positive means the partner gets benefited in some or the other way, like predation or mutualism. Or a negative result means the partner doesn't get benefited, instead may lose its life. For example, in predation, the prey dies. Let's go through some interactions. An interaction where one animal kills other, a predation. When both of the animals help each other, mutualism. When one animal helps other animal, commensalism. When one animal infects other animal, parasitism. And when two organisms confront each other, compete each other for dominance, that is competition. And when one organism secretes some chemical which are detrimental to the other, which dies, antibiosis. Feeding on plant is called as herbivory. Sometimes it is also called as the predation. The herbivores, they are called as primary consumers. They feed on plants. Plants are called as producers because they produce organic matter. How? There is a chemical called as chlorophyll which is stored in the leaves. It converts solar energy into organic matter by the process of photosynthesis. The organic matter mainly is in form of carbohydrates but some proteins as well. This nutritious organic matter is stored in different parts of the plant. Therefore, there are different animals which feed on different parts of the plants. Root feeders. There are insect larvae which bore into the subterranean roots and eat inner fleshy part. There are larger animals like wild boar who likes to feed on the roots of the plants. Now roots are meant to carry the nutrition and water from the soil. If the root is damaged, plants show signs of withering. If it is not repaired, the plant will die. Algivores, the animals feeding on algae. There are insects like web spinners who live amongst the algae. There are some larger animals like marine iguana found in Galapagos Island who exclusively feeds on marine algae. For propagation and cross-pollination, flowers are produced by many plants. So, to attract pollinators to these flowers, there are colors as well as some bait, a sweet fluid, what is called as the nectar. So, there are organisms which feed on these nectars, they are called as the nectarivores. While reaching the nectary in the flower, they carry pollens on their body. So these pollens are carried from one flower to the other flower. This ensures that gametes from one flower are carried to the other flower and a genetic variation is achieved. Then there are frugivores, the animals feeding on fruits. Some animals they feed on only the fleshy part of the fruit while some feed on entire fruit. The seed goes into their stomach. While going to their resting place or to some other plant, they defecate. They drop the seed somewhere else. This helps in dispersal of the seeds. Whereas some plants whose seeds require to pass through the bird's gut, otherwise they will not germinate. The leaves are the main generators of the plant because they have chlorophyll. If leaf is not there, the plant cannot survive. There are creatures called as the folivores which feed on these leaves. In some cases, the leaves are totally eaten, so that helps plant for new sprouting. Whereas in some cases, like teak defoliator moth, which eats only the fleshy green part, so plant cannot produce leaves immediately. Pallinivores, the creatures who feed on pollens. Pollens are the male gamete. They carry male chromosome. There are creatures who feed only on pollens. So in process of that, pollens are carried from one flower to the other. Of course, pollens die, but plants take care by producing multiple pollens in thousands, in millions. There are some creatures like Blister Beetle, while feeding on pollens, they eat petals as well. So the flower loses petal, but in a process, the pollens are transferred to the other flower, ensuring cross-pollination. There are musivores, that is, animals feeding on fungi. Sometimes fungi may get benefited while feeding, the sporangium may break open and help in dispersal of the spores. Then there are granivores, like rodents, who feed on the grains of the plant, the seeds of the plant. It normally doesn't help in dispersal because seed, the vital germ part of the plant, gets digested throughout the digestive system. So it doesn't germinate at all. Then there are creatures who feed on the hard wood of the plant. For example, there are borer beetles. The female lay eggs on the bark of a tree and the larvae bore into the hardwood. They make galleries into the hardwood and that makes plant wither. So we have seen almost all parts of the plants are edible. So no wonder that there are animals feeding on those. So what does the plant do in defense? Yes, plant produces some chemical deterrents, obnoxious chemicals or toxicants, which may deter animals from feeding on them. However, animals are more evolved. There are creatures like caterpillars which feed on poisonous sap of the plant and can survive. There's the other part of predation as well, reverse herbivory, means plants feeding on insects. There are insectivorous plants in some parts of the world. However, remember that insectivory is not day-to-day basis. These plants have leaves, so they produce organic matter. So whenever they don't have proteins, they resume on insect feeding. Thank you for watching. Join me for some more interaction in part 2.